Well, hello, hello, hello. Once again, welcome back to another episode of the Summer Spotlight 2020. I am your host, Gail Nicholson. So good to see you again today. Wow, I look like I'm strangling myself here. Today, I am super duper excited. Like, I'm not excited every day, right? But today, I am super duper excited because I have been watching this particular person develop their business and go brick and mortar this year, launched everything. It was doing beautifully right around February, started doing first stuff, and COVID. And so this guy has, in the trenches, in real time, completely pivoted to his entire business model after working on it for so long and just kept going. So I am so proud to introduce you to Mr. Patrick Kirby, the founder of DoGoodBetterConsulting.com. Yes. Thanks so much for being with me today, Patrick. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm ecstatic, and again, kudos to you too. Middle of the pandemic, pivot into something that you speak about somebody else, speak about yourself for a second. That's one of the coolest pivots that I've seen in a long time. Is creating out of this something really brilliant, and not only sort of showcasing your skill set, but lifting up others. I think is a marvelous trait that not enough people do currently, and you're doing it brilliantly. So I love watching you as well. So kudos back to you. It's awesome.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I'm really glad to see that this show is actually like finding its way. It's been an honor to be the navigator on this, but trust me, I am not the pilot. Not the pilot. So let's talk a little bit about Do Good Better Consulting. I love the name of it. How did you come up with that?
Well, we were trying to come up with the name for a business. So I've been in nonprofit work for about a decade and a half, doing fundraising in probably most capacities in organizations, big, small, and medium, and everywhere in between. And so I fell in love with the idea of helping small and medium-sized nonprofits have that sort of aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been using the term do-gooder a lot. Just kind of that's kind of how I've always referred to people who worked in the nonprofit industry. And it's kind of just a funny term that we use for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to come up with a corporate name for it. There was all these like fun names that, were in Latin and this, and they all sounded like law firms. And I was like, I don't want anybody to know that I work at a law firm. I wanted to, have people think of like they have to read it a couple of times. Is it do better, gooder? Is it do good? And so we came up with do good better because we had talked to a lot of nonprofits saying, listen, you're already doing great things. You're already doing good. You need a little help, sort of navigating what you're, wasting time on. So we'll help you do good better. And it kind of stuck, and it was clever enough, and nobody had taken, that sort of moniker yet. There was a book called Doing Good Better that I read years and years and years ago. But this one kind of just fit in the nonprofit world, and I just loved it so much. And so it's stuck, and we just love it. So
I think it's phenomenal. It is. It's very catchy. It is very like, what was it?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
that's nice. Yes. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. Now I know I can see behind you. You have at least one book there with your picture on it. Tell me about your book.
One of the things that I loved more than anything when I was kind of beginning sort of this journey of consulting with nonprofits was trying to figure out a path that everyone could fit. The question that kept coming up was, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I was like, well, truth be told, nobody does. So you're okay. But number two, all they were looking for in the nonprofit world was just some sort of framework to sign it, just work and go and do. And they would start their weeks going, I don't know where to start. And they would get to a Wednesday and they'd be like, I don't know what to do still. And come to a Friday and they would look back and go, I don't know what the heck I accomplished. Please help. And so we'd been developing this at a previous job on sort of how to work my own schedule, because I'm sort of all these things come into my head and I get distracted easily. So I needed to build a framework for myself. And so I started using this for other nonprofits. And so it was a simple framework that had you do something once a day, every day of the week, to kind of move the needle forward for donor development. And it turned out you can use it for marketing. Turns out you can use it for social media. Turns out you can use it for major gifts, minor gifts, small things, whatever it is. And it goes like this. Mondays are for planning. Tuesdays are for doing. Wednesdays are for documenting. Thursdays are for celebrating. And Fridays are for appreciating. And you spend 20 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day, 2 hours, whatever it is, on that one thing. At the end of the day, when you've got 10,000 hats you're wearing in the nonprofit world or business world, you can look back and say, at least I did this. And I can feel good about it, go to sleep and go, I can build on that the next day, build on that the next day, and so on and so forth. So I built it and I wrote the book, and it's really kind of it's a fun short read. It's 100 some pages. And it just is how I came up with it, some stories of triumphs and some stories of abysmal failures that sort of led me to building this thing in the first place. And it's been really a joy to teach and use as a model for what I do coaching for nonprofits going forward.
I love it. I love it. As you were talking about it, I'm thinking, gosh, if we had instituted something like that at even the last job that I worked, in a brick and mortar, right?
Yeah.
20-minute meeting in the morning, how much would that have not just increased our productivity, but increased cohesiveness in the community, in the workplace too? That's brilliant stuff. Brilliant
you
stuff.
need a lot of time. And that's the best part about this, is that you can break it down into however much time you have to do something. And it's latching onto something. So you can look back at the end of the weekend what you did. And a lot of it's planning your priorities. And so that everybody's got a book for that. But then it's executing that the very next day. It's not waiting 2 weeks to do it because planning the plan to plan to plan the plan is never a plan. That's just a waste of time. So doing that on the, yeah. I just like playing plan a lot. So planning something is great. Doing something is really critical. And then when you document something on a Wednesday, it's taking all those great conversations you had with somebody like a Gail or somebody like that and saying, what do you remember about them that has nothing to do with the size of their checkbook or their checking account, but has everything to do with what their loves are, so they can relate to a person. And if you forget about what you talked about, you always have that documented thing. And then as a nonprofit, we never celebrate enough. We think it's bragging, especially here in the flyover country in the Midwest. We just think it's just oh, look at me, I'm so good. From your donor standpoint, they want to know what successes that you've had and how they've helped contribute to it. So you have to do something like that once a week. And then we end the week with appreciation. You write 5 thank you notes a week, and that's over 260 a year that you get to actually write handwritten and send in the mail. And if that's something that you're doing something way better than everybody else. It makes you unique, and it makes people look forward to a phone call because you've taken the time to just appreciate them for what they do, not necessarily anything that they've donated. And that's the whole framework that you just get from start to finish.
I love that. You know what? If anybody watching this just wants to take one piece of that, institute the thank you notes. I don't care if it's an email. I don't care if it's a handwritten note. I mean, definitely handwritten is always better, much more personal and connective. But just the appreciation of people who touch your life, that, it's not about money. It's about connection. It's about community. It's about building relationships.
Even if it's a text message. I mean, people in this new generation I respond to text messages quicker than I do voicemails, quicker than I do emails. Yeah. That's kind of how people get together. And what if you randomly texted people random notes of appreciation at any given time? There's no reason behind it. You scroll down. And in fact, if you're watching this and you've got your cell phone out anyway, you're on your cell phone, take your messenger out, right? And go scroll through 20th person down on your list. Send them a random note of how much they mean to you and how much you appreciate them. Right now. And the thing about it is that person's right. Do it right now. And once you get that, once you send that out into the world, they're going to get it. They're going to wonder 2 things. One, oh God, what's wrong? Right. Or what do you need? Yeah. And isn't that weird that that's the reaction most people would have, because we don't send out enough joy and appreciation to others. Mm-hmm. And if you're an organization, you're a person who represents an organization or a business or whatever that is doing that on a regular basis, people look forward to it. Mm-hmm. And they know that you're authentically interested in them, old Dale Carnegie techniques. Mm-hmm. And that separates you from everybody else who's solely concentrating on sales rather than relationship building. And that's really the key to fundraising. Fundraising is not asking people for money. Fundraising is storytelling and relationship building, so that people make a connection with you and they ask, how can I help? Yeah. And you've now got them sold. And that's really the key.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I just love picking your brain. We could go on for days like this. Oh my
Love it.
gosh. One one of the things that you brought to mind when you were talking is a little step beyond that, and I'm not trying to put a cherry on top of your program because I know that that is amazing stuff. But it reminded me of when I took a challenge. I was working with a coach, and she challenged me just to reach out to people and ask them, "What can I do to support you today?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, we got the whole run of the gamut as far as different responses and stuff. But for most people, it was just like, you know what? You just did it.
Hmm.
You just did it. You came out of the woodworks and let me know that there's somebody out there who knows, likes, trusts, and wants to support me. And sometimes that makes all the difference in the world for a lot of
There's
people.
no there's no better time than now to do that. I
Right?
mean, in a world where as an extrovert, this has been soul crushing to me. This whole like not being able to high five or hug anybody, and this is awful. So the way that you can do and feel like you are making a difference in other people's lives or bringing joy on a regular basis is doing exactly what you just said, which is just reaching out and saying, "How are you doing? How can I help?" There's no intention of like, hey, I got a program I want to sell you. I've got a book I want to sell you. I want this. I want no, no. I'm literally interested in how you are handling this because I'm struggling. I know that you're probably struggling too. Let's talk about it. And so at least you've got some common ground to talk about and start there. And then that begins to pile on those bricks of trust and bricks of appreciation on top of that. And you're helping somebody the way that you're helping yourself by asking that question. So that's brilliant. I love it.
Awesome, awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Now let's let's get into the meat and the potatoes of the conversation now. Um, what was that like for you in February, March, April, when I mean, literally just the momentum of the launch? I saw your posts, I saw the front of your office, and all of these exciting stuff, and all of us are sitting back here in Rob's group in the background going, "Go Patrick, go!" Just we're so excited for you. And then boom, the world turns upside down. What
Mm-hmm.
was that like for you?
That's the scariest moment ever, I think, as a business owner, when you just sort of take a leap and you're going to, all right, I'm going to get an office. Not going to be at my kitchen countertop anymore. I'm going to get a big kid office. I'm going to do that. And then you invest in it. You kind of create, you want to make, you have space for people to come in and brainstorm with you and ideate with you and craft out plans and host people and really sort of get that brand rolling. And then again, everything stops. And in March, when I was kind of looking at this going, all right, we lost a couple of clients here. Everybody had to drop off and push back 3.5 months. Now, what do you do? Now, could we have waited out and just said, okay, let's just kind of pivot back and just kind of just wait this thing? Or you could make a move. And what's that move? And I think that's where I was so excited about. I used it as an opportunity to say, okay, what am I doing that's just wasting time and opportunity, like wasting opportunities? What am I not asking others? I was really sort of focused on all social media all the time rather than going out and meeting individuals. And so not only did I get a brick and mortar office at the tail end of the year and this thing happened, but then I also doubled down and said, I'm going to hire somebody as well
Oh
to
my.
help me with that outreach too. So I had a double scary moment in the middle of a pandemic as hiring somebody, not part-time, full-time, and really just taking a leap that I know that I was going to be a benefit to others by helping them get from their dark spot as a fundraiser or a fundraising organization and moving them out of there too. And that's really what excited me. I dumped all my effort into creating and crafting and building, and then switching to, we did a lot of event consulting because people do fundraising events. How can we do this online? So I had in July scheduled,
Mm-hmm.
middle of July, the way that I've done every year for the last couple of years, is a fundraising conference, in-person fundraising conference here in Fargo. We had captured people from 5 different states that drove here in our first year to do a fundraising event. It was
Mm.
great. Momentum building, as you just talked about. Now COVID hits, and all of a sudden that's looking less and less likely because nobody knew what was going to happen. And we made the conscious effort to take the risk and bump it up 3 months and put it virtual, fully virtual, fully bumped up 3.5 months. And we use it as our test run to say, how can we provide as much value, throw all the spaghetti at the wall on what works and what doesn't. We'll take the risk and we'll provide what we learn to other nonprofits and other for-profits and other conferences on how to put on a really engaging, really awesome nonprofit or virtual event. And it hit, and everything that we put into the effort, and everybody saw us sort of push all the chips in, and the feedback was great, and the momentum was building back up again. And then that was the dip of like, my God, what are we going to do? Let's double down our efforts. And it really became, I know that this is going to work. I know maybe not everybody else does, but I have it in the gut instinct was like, I think this is going to be the way of the future, regardless of if you had in-person events and you need them and you love them and you have to have that. The virtual element from now until eternity is going to happen because you can reach more people. So then this year we had people from over 4 different countries, 14 different states beam in. We had speakers who we would have never gotten involved who had free time now and were able to beam in and give their wonderful opinions and thoughts to give. And so that was the whole moment. We're like, well, let's give as much as we possibly can. And it was beautiful. So this whole like just dark, dour moment of like, now what do we do? And then taking all of that sort of negative energy and wrapping it around and saying, all right, we're just going to go full all in here to serve others and to help them do it and take the risk on ourselves. Is this going to work or not? And then just go full bore.
Nice. Gosh.
So a lot of sleepless nights and more sleepless nights going, I can't believe we've done this. And then running. And at the same time, and then we're navigating no school. I've got 3 small children, and that 2 of them are school aged. So now school completely shuts down, and you got to work on your business for half the time because my wife and I have to ping back and forth between being a teacher and a dad and a mom, and then being an employee. And what we should have been doing is I should have been working on my business 14 hours a day. I was working on it 4, maybe that, because I had been distracted by school. And you got to make sure that your kids are up to date and they're keeping up. And then there's no daycare because those shut down too. So then it's the balance of whether are you entrepreneur 1 hour, are you dad the other hour, are you teacher this, are you husband this? That's the most stressful thing about this whole entrepreneur world. And I'm sure that you know this as well, is that you have to play so many more different roles. Mm-hmm. And the things that you need to concentrate on, you don't have the time to. And ironically, going back to book stuff, is that's really how I got in that groove back, is if I can do 20 minutes a day, if I can take my own GD advice and just work on small pieces to the puzzle, I could probably dig myself out of there and double down on a lot of those efforts. And I think that worked. But that was and I think this was the great equalizer too, wasn't it? Where there wasn't a person that was not affected by it. Right. And I think that's what gave me a sense of calm too, is that everybody I think had that moment where they say, my God, I must be the only one stressed to the hilt. And it was everybody. And I think that gave me peace of mind and calm and reaching out to people to say, listen, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. How can we work together? How can we partner up? And so that's where this kind of came in. We've got a couple of different business partners who said, we all know how to do this. Let's work together on virtual events. Let's work together on some content. Let's work together on educating people and building, folks up and helping out the best we possibly can and giving more than we're getting, knowing that it's going to come back tenfold. So,
right. It really is amazing to me to see how much the virtual community has pulled together. It's not like 9/11, right? But it is. Because it's just the response is an entirely 180 shift from it, right? It back in 2001, we were kinder to each other, we were nicer to each other in person, and more supportive that way. Whereas now, you've got your dark and you've got your light. You've got the Facebook that you scroll through that it's just people complaining about and arguing with each other about masks. Right. And then you've got the ones that are like slogging through all that to get to business, Right. And the ones that are focused on business are pulling tighter even, I think, and doing even more heavy lifting to lift each other up, which is amazing to see.
I really like that. And I like your 9/11 thing, because I remember after 9/11, we all just thought it was really weird to take our shoes off and belts off at the airport. Yeah. And now that's just the thing we do. And I think the people who are understanding that this happened and the way that we remember the world before COVID or whatever, this pandemic, the people who are hanging on to like, man, I just hold out and I wait and I don't make a move and I don't adjust. Those are going to be the ones that just go, I don't know what happened. And the ones that acknowledge that this is going to be a reality for a while and that this is the normal, not new normal. This is now normal. are going to be succeeding. And I think that's where I think we can lift people up together in that online community, is saying, listen, you get it. Let's go. And here's what we're learning. And here's what we're doing here, take the reins here. And you can use this too. And there's enough business and people to help that are just desperate for it, that the space is not like it's not, crowded as much as it should be or could be. And I think it's for everybody. I think that's really good.
Yeah. It truly is a Darwin moment, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
In the very real sense of the term, because Darwin's theory wasn't about survival of the fittest. It was about the ones who can adapt will survive.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not strength that carries the day. It's function. It's adaptability.
It's funny. I read an article about that too, which is saying that maybe kindness and maybe niceness was the strength that they were talking about too. Those who are nice and those who are kind are the ones that survive the longest because they get along with more people. And so that lifting up of others might have been that Darwin moment too, where like, who else is bringing everybody along and lifting people up rather than just sort of, tamping down, like, I'm better than you. And so I think you make a really interesting point there, because I think that's it. It's the ones who are going to adjust. Yeah.
Well, like they say, the meek shall inherit the earth, because they're the only ones that haven't pissed anybody off enough to kill them.
No, yes. I love that.
All right. So tell me you've really given us a good overview of how your organization did that shift and is lifting other nonprofit organizations up into adapting into virtuality. Now, for all of our small little mom and pop ones out there, what kind of advice can you give them to do their own pivot? Maybe we've got, more nonprofits that fit that explanation than I do. What do you got for them?
It's finding ways that are unique but authentic to you, and not really doing what other big boys and girls are doing in the industry. And I think a lot of that has to do with personalized content and just being out there. A lot of nonprofits and a lot of businesses are probably waiting for the perfect time, the right time. They're going to get everything edited out perfectly before they launch it, or they're going to get all their talking points perfect before they start actually having conversations. And that's not what people need right now. People need authenticity more than they do scrubbed down perfection. And if you're waiting for the perfect and right time, it's never going to be the right time, because it's never going to be perfect and you're never going to be happy with it. And that engagement piece that I've seen a lot of, those who are authentic and who don't mind if they have the ums or the ers or the what, that's how you speak. And if you're overly enthusiastic, be overly enthusiastic. I think that the ones who will succeed out of this are the ones who just turn and go, you know what? I know who my audience is. I know what they want from a connection. And I'm going to actually do it. We talked about that earlier. If you're planning on doing something, that's great. Right. If you're not executing on that plan, or you're not doing something about communicating and connecting with people on a level that's not, I think you're going to be at a loss. And I do think there is room for personalization and picking up these supercomputers in our hands. Picking up the phone and calling somebody is now the most intimate thing that you can do, because everybody is sitting online, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's sitting online. Nobody's expecting a phone call. And as long as you're calling people authentically, again, say thank you, say how are you doing, reaching out and saying how I can help, that's now becoming a thing that is a little more personalized, that a personal coffee meeting or a personal meeting one-on-one is now going to be. Because you can't get in front of people. That's not reality. But you can pick up the phone. And people who are not willing to pick up the phone or do something like that are going to be really far behind.
Agreed. And, like we used to call it the 400-pound phone, because might only be 10 ounces, but yeah, it's hard to lift.
It's
hard
heavy,
to push
but
those buttons.
But when nobody else is doing it, and when nobody else is doing it that doesn't want something or need something from somebody else, you're going to be the one who's unique in the sense that people will look forward to your calls. If you know people on your call list, if they call you, they need something, and the only reason they get a hold of you is if they need something, right?
Oh, yeah, that's my kids right there.
There you when your kids call, you could probably, every time your kids call, say on the phone when you answer, what do you want now? And you'd probably rewrite 90% of the time. And so don't be that business person or the nonprofit person that is, what do you need now? How much money do you need now? because they're not going to pick up the phone. They're not going to do it. So have conversations with people that are authentically about the opposite of what you're trying to sell or promote or solicit, because that will build you a better relationship in the long run. And they'll be looking forward to you calling and looking forward to your emails rather than just dreading it, going, ugh, now I got to write another check.
Right. Right. That is absolutely true. And forgive me, I had a question that I was going to ask you back, but I just got distracted by denying another second phone call.
Yep. Somebody wants something from you for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, and that is absolutely brilliant. Now, if there are people out there watching that have been doing fundraising and have succumbed to this, how do I want to put it, this background vibe of, oh, nobody's got any money, nobody knows where their next check is coming from, even if they've got money, they're not going to let go of it because of uncertainty, all of these money conversations that leave you wanting to say no for the person before even picking up the phone, right? What can those people do to get back in the swing of things? First of all, buy the book, read the book, put the book to work, right? But what else can they do to get back in the swing of a momentum that they can, recover from this? It's a big hit.
Yeah, it is. I would say a couple of things. One, the people who have wealth still have wealth. In fact, the people who had wealth before this are probably more wealthy now because they've been playing the stock market. They know how to play that, right? I think when the stock market was down, everybody was super worried. Everybody was like kind of a little hanging on. It's back up. People are ready to go. It's going to be fine. People who have money still have money. Now, it's really connecting with the people who maybe have capacity, and it's being connective on a deeper level than just, I need some funds to do this. So if you're talking to people, talk about your impact. Not how much you need, but how much impact that you're not making because you don't have funds to do it.
Brilliant.
Right? Start with the conversation. And this is mentors all over the place will tell you something like this, which is start with the conversation of, if your organization goes away tomorrow, what's the impact left in your community? If you're a homeless shelter and you have to close down, what's the impact on the amount of people that you are going to have to turn away? Where do they go? What do they do? If you're a food bank that you have to shut down, how many families go hungry? How many families then are turning to other avenues to gain money? What is your the pebble in the water reaction, and how many ripples are going out negatively if you go away? And if you start with that as an internal conversation, all right, now how do I twist that into a positive? So now you're talking with your donors about saying, listen, we serve this many people. We've seen a huge uptick, which means we are putting more resources into X, Y, and Z. And the only way that we can sustain this is with people who have the ability to help. And I know that you are a believer that those that are hungry need food, those that are naked need clothing, those that don't have shelter need it. And you're one of the few people in this community that have the ability to help at an exponential level.
Right.
That's sort of propping up and having them understand and realize that they are the ones who are the key to helping organizations. Another one too is just giving yourself the confidence to go in there and say, we need some help because we're putting all of our eggs into this particular basket and people just desperately need. People want to help. They just don't know how. So you got to find their how and you got to connect it to their why. We talk about this. This is mindset stuff 101,
right.
But really, if you don't know what their why is, you can't really connect. So you got to ask them why they give to the organizations. What other organizations do they give to? If you're a donor and you on average, how many places do you donate to a year, Gail?
Me personally, I'd say probably about 4.
Yeah, average is like 4 or 5. So that means you're not stealing money away from another organization. You're trying to align yourself with somebody who gives to 4 or 5 organizations in a year. So what if that organization hasn't sent a thank you note in a year? What if that organization hasn't reached out and asked them how they're doing? Mm-hmm. What if that organization is only asking them for money and you come in as an organization, ask how they're doing? How can you be of help? appreciate them for their gifts for other organizations. Be radical about this kind of stuff. Have conversations the way that you would want to have other people have conversations with you, and try to navigate where their love is, what they want to fight, how they can be champions for that. Once you know that, now it's going to be easy because you can align them with everything. And once you have alignment and once you have the understanding of their capacity, that's the perfect time to make an ask, because you know everything you need to know about that person. I was given, and it's in the book too, a mentor of mine taught me, never ask for somebody or never ask for a major gift unless you know the name of your donor's dog. And it means you're asking questions that are different and asking questions that are personal, that have nothing to do with their capacity. Right. And that means you have a better relationship with them, and you can have conversations with them freely the way that you and I do, that has nothing to do with business. It's all about just kind of how to help others. And that becomes a intimate part of the conversation. And then they trust, and they trust you in order to do good in the community. And there's where your fundraising happens. It's that moment where you just both realize, like, boy, you love what we do. We love you to help us. We're going to make a perfect pair together. Let's go make magic in the community. Right.
You know, I love that. To put that in a nutshell, I would call that being Santa at Macy's. Do you remember the movie? The Miracle on 34th Street?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's the same mindset. I don't care if you can get it here. If you can get it there, that's great. The thing that's important is the kid gets what they need.
Exactly.
Or want, whatever the case may be. Yeah. You know? Yeah, that's brilliant stuff. That right there, that is gold, right? I could do a 5-minute on that and sell access to it on YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna bottle that one up. Right? But again, that's how you get out of your rut. If you just don't know where to start, ask people for their opinion on things. And if you're really nervous and you're not ready to make an ask, and you don't really know how to make an ask, have donors help you, and do it like this. And we talk about this in the book too, which is go on a test ask. Reach out to a donor and say, listen, I'd love to meet with you. I'm going to make an ask, and it's going to be a real ask. It totally is. But more than money, I would love you to give me thoughts and feedback on how my ask is and how you react to it. Because there's plenty of people out there that I think would want to help. But I value you as a donor, and I value your opinion as somebody who supports us. And I'd love to know if what we're saying is working, and how you would manage that to people that are like you, who love our organization but might not be willing to give right now, and help me craft some of that message. Now you're engaging somebody who has the capacity to give, and you're asking them for their opinions, which everybody wants to give their opinions. And that good then translates into, I'm now helping you help the organization raise a lot of money. And that is a deeper relationship than most people have too. And if you're in a rut, ask people for their opinions that are going to lead to ask for help, which is asking for money in sort of a backwards way on how to do that.
It is, but you know what? Backwards or not, I mean, you've just let that potential donor walk away with a higher sense of esteem of his community, because somebody actually asked for and wants to hear their opinion on something that makes a difference for the bottom line of their own company. I mean, who wouldn't walk away kind of a little straighter in the spine from that, right?
Yes. And if an organization makes you feel like that, don't you want to give to that organization? Don't you want to be involved with that organization? So you're doing yourself a service by building partners of people who already support what you do. They know what you do, and now they're helping you sort of navigate these little muddy waters of trying to figure out what solicitation looks like in the weird world that we live in. That's a really good way to do it.
Nice stuff. Very good. Very good. Now, do you have any top tips for how to make fundraising easier across the board? I mean, for whatever reason, whether it's mindset, I don't want to ask for money, or, whatever it may be, sometimes it's difficult for people to do that. What can make it easier?
Don't overcomplicate it. The biggest headache that people have with fundraising is they're trying to overcomplicate it. And I'll give you an example. You ever have a sponsorship? Somebody send you a sponsorship? I mean, people who own their own business get sponsorships all the time. They're like, hey, I'd like you to sponsor my golf tournament. And there's 9,000 different options, or there's 9,000 different things, and they're just giving you every piece of information. It's overwhelming. Don't overcomplicate it. Do you have to know the background of every single human being before you pick up the phone? No, you don't. Know a couple of pieces of information. Don't overcomplicate it. It's way more. And once you're not overcomplicating things, you can have normal conversations with people, because that's what other people are. Like, other people are actual people. They're not ATM machines with legs. They're human beings.
Right.
So as you would have fun with a friend or a family member or a colleague or whatever, have fun having a conversation about what you do. And I think the other thing too is that if you forget about how much fun and how much good you're doing in the world, if you don't remind yourself on a regular basis of like, you know what, we really do kick ass. I really do awesome things. This is amazing, that work that we do. The fire in your belly to have conversations with people diminishes. So have that fun, have that enthusiasm. In fact, do fundraise as if you would want to be fundraised too. Have somebody who is just really energetic about these things. Smile a lot. If you have to do Zoom calls, put your face on the screen. Don't hide your face, and so you can actually react how you look in real time to actually present well. Those are the kind of things that are going to have fun. And as soon as you see somebody smile, or as soon as you make a human connection like that, that's a little deeper than, hey, here's some things that we did this year. And you relate it, that becomes fun again. The other thing too is grab a small win that then parlays onto a larger win, onto a larger one. It's okay to grab some low-hanging fruit to make you feel like you know what you're doing. Because every once in a while you get those 10, 15, 30 no's, and you're like, what am I even good at this anymore? Find a yes. Find a yes to a meeting. Find a yes to, I will help you with this project. Find a yes that I will introduce you to somebody. Those small yeses will sort of reignite. So I'm like, okay, I got it. I'm back in the saddle again.
Nice.
Little things make a big difference.
That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. And it really does get back into mindset again too, doesn't it?
Does.
Yeah.
You can play a lot of head games in the nonprofit world. Oh, this organization's got their crap together. No, they don't. They got a social media team that puts that together. They don't. They're doing the same thing that you're doing. They're banging their heads against the same wall about the same topics with the same board members that are driving them insane with the same topics. Mm-hmm. Everybody is equal in the insanity that is the nonprofit world. And so you're not any different than everybody else, which means you've got the same ability to get yourself out of the hole and into a fundraising rhythm and a mechanism, because everyone else is in the same boat.
Right. I would add to that, on top of what you just said about that, is the attachment. Don't be attached. Like when you're having fun, right? When you're having fun, you're going with the flow. Everything is what it is, right? You start getting attached to a particular outcome. Like I'm gonna get this huge donation from this particular person. You will energetically send them running off into the hills, and they'll never speak to you again. You know, nobody likes to be clawed at. And
no.
That's what attachment feels like. I mean, I'm speaking in nonprofit like I know, but in sales, it's the same thing. As soon as I start going, I'm going to get this contract, poof, I might as well lit it on fire.
You're never going to know when somebody's going to donate. You're never going to know how much they're going to donate. And the only thing that you can control, because you can't control those two things, is field activity, or how many times you make a connection that's human. That's it. And the more times you're human connected to somebody, and the more times you're relatable to somebody, the better chance is that you're going to get more money in a quicker turnaround time. And that's it. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about that end game. Worry about the long game. Worry about how long of a relationship do they have. The ultimate gift is somebody who says, I love your organization enough that I'm going to give you something when I die, in a portion of what I've built up over the years. Legacy giving. The only way you do, nobody meets somebody for the first time and said, I'm so moved by you, I'm going to give you all my money. Nobody does that. That's not how it works. And in fact, if you're
ruined my fantasy.
I know, right? I feel like I really have it. That's not how this works. And it also doesn't work that every time you meet somebody, you have to ask them for $1 million, which is, I think somebody thinks about that when fundraising, like, I don't get asked for $1 million. Well, good. Rarely do people ask for $1 million. So understand that you are playing a long game to make sure that they feel like they are making a maximum impact at the organization level, and the organization itself is making maximum impact in the community. And thereby they are bonded with you so that they feel for the long term that they're going to make a massive difference to the groups that they love in the first place. And you know that because you have conversations with them about it. And that's where you need to hold on. So you're 100% right. Don't attach yourself to a specific thing. You can ask for a sponsorship. You can ask for a team to play golf. You can ask for a low-level gift. That's fine. But don't attach yourself to a fantasy that is, and if you don't get it, you're decimated by it, right? Play the long game. Play the long game.
Nice. Now, do you have, first of all, this has been an absolute gold mine of information and encouragement and good advice. So thank you very much for your time and for the benefit to my audience. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to chat. I love this kind of stuff, and I love the platform too. This is super great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any final or encouraging thoughts for any sort of nonprofit fundraiser in this time of uncertainty? What can they hold to from you?
Keep on keeping on. Carry on. Don't worry. I know it's a very frustrating time, and I think it's really, you'll probably have a board of directors who is probably just chewing down your neck to how much money's coming in and money's coming in, money's coming in. You probably have an executive director who's like, I don't know where the money's coming in, where's the money coming, where's money coming in. If you are concentrating on relationship building, if you are concentrating on opening doors and telling your story to as many people as possible and passionately talking about that kind of stuff, everything will line up into place. Don't be afraid of your story. Your story's amazing. Don't be afraid of a budget. It'll make it if you're putting in the work and the field activity. Remember, get out there and talk. Don't benchmark yourself about how much money's coming in right away. Benchmark yourself about how much time you spend talking with people and connecting with people and telling your story and being authentic and being awesome and positive about what you're doing in the community and the impact you're making. That's where you spend your time and your energy. And if you're spending all your time and energy doing that, everything's going to line up exactly where you need to, because you're just not worrying about paperwork, spelling things that you have to do, overcomplicating your solicitations, overcomplicating your stories in your emails and checking them 400 times. Be authentically you, be passionate about what you do, and get out there and have a little blast talking about what it is. Remember what got you started there in the first place. Harness that energy that you walked in the door with, that I'm going to go change the world, and go do it. Go do it.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful. Thank you once again, Patrick, for being here today. I wish you all the best. And if there's any way that I can be of support to what you're doing, please don't hesitate to ask. You've got my hands.
Oh, you're the best. Well, thank you for what you do. And again, thank you for this platform, for everybody who gets to enjoy being interviewed by you and what you're offering to everybody as far as access and promotion and that kind of thing. It's brilliant. I think you're doing a fantastic job, and I love the pivot. It's really one of the most fun things I've been able to watch. So kudos to you.
Thanks so much, Patrick. All right, Facebook, have a fantastic day. And actually, we're going to broadcast tomorrow. See you soon. Bye. When you open your energy, that recovery progresses so much faster. That recovery is possible. You do not have to live as a victim until your last days. You have unbelievable strength, and I know that because you're still here. Do you want to create something completely unrecognizable with your life? I can show you how.